I want to go back to thinking of this as a dream because it is how it has to be right now. Okay, so hello. Today we are going to dance with Simon Vincenzi. I am extremely honored. Simon, you have influenced my life in choreography to such a degree. It's very hard to really separate my understanding of choreography from everything that I've experienced through your work. Because we met in 2013, or no, earlier, 2011.
Okay. We did. I went to see you in the Rite Spring.
Yes, yeah, and then we sort of we managed to play together, and I was lucky enough to be invited into a few of your projects. But Simon, if people don't know who you are, what do you tell them?
Well, I usually tell them that I'm a choreographer, more of a director, really, director, choreographer. I trained as a theatre designer, so I'm also a theatre designer and an artist, I guess. I do other things in galleries, so it's a mixture of things. Doesn't make it easy for anyone, it seems, but that's just how it is.
Yeah. And today we're going to do a little thing which you've been playing with. Would you like to maybe describe a little bit what it is?
Well, I guess you said that we'd talk about a practice, and I guess I never really feel I have one as something that one works on constantly. But one of the things, very often the things that, and you know this as well, that things are the things that I'm interested in, partly performers responding to various rules or various instructions. And over the last couple of years, I've been looking at that in relationship with artificial intelligence, and handing over to that sort of force, giving that force a sort of instruction and seeing what that comes back. And I thought that for this, it might be interesting to ask the artificial intelligence what Peter Mills and Simon Vincenzi should dance. So it came up with a lot of things. One that we're going to work on is the dance that it talked about, which is very strict instructions. The other thing that I chose, because there's a lot that I asked it to do. The other thing I chose to bring into this was it suddenly started describing an interview, but it was slightly the other way around. It's me interviewing you, I think in a hotel room. And then I also chose a sort of a more poetic description of the dance that it decided it wanted to communicate itself with.
Yeah. So we'll have a go at that, I guess.
Okay.
And also, I think what would be nice, and if that's okay with you, Simon, we will share the text maybe, or the video that comes from the thing, or perhaps we share something. We'll find a way of sharing something from the AI so people can maybe see a little bit. But I guess if people wanted to try this, they should play with AI languages. There's so many out there. I've been using ChatGPT and get it to choreograph for you. What AI did you use, just out of curiosity?
Well, most of them are really horrible, actually. I think that the one that I used is called InferKit, and it's rather old and rather dusty, but I really like its quality. And of course, I've been working with AI for quite a time, and then you see how it changes over the years, and it's becoming sort of because it thinks it's getting better, it gets harder. There's the quality gets harder and harder, and so I use quite an old-fashioned one where it sort of is much more glitchy. And of course, it's the glitchiness and the sort of strangeness of its thinking that I'm interested in.
Beautiful. I can't wait. All right, so we'll pause. People at home can pause if they so wish, and then in a minute we will reflect after we've had our little dance. I want to go back to thinking of this as a dream because it is how it has to be right now. Okay. Well, I'm warm.
You're not as wobbly as I am.
Ah, it's a real joy. Um, like just trying to comprehend it in real time the sort of glitched, as you said earlier, or complex instructions and how they mismatch and organize, but yet there's a sense there. There's a meaning underneath it all, which and like in the sort of standing on one leg and trying to turn the palm upwards whilst turning the body, even before it's finished saying turn the body, I feel like it's real, but at the same time very difficult.
Yes. Yeah.
And how has it been for you, like meeting with these instructions? Because you're usually, as you say, not practicing them, but giving the instructions, maybe.
I quite rarely give the instructions, but I felt that for this event, I like the idea of there being like a duet from these different places. But I have to say, I chose very particular. I had the privilege of choosing the one that I thought I might be able to do in a particular way.
And still, it's very hard.
It is hard, yes. Yeah, it is hard. It's hard to maintain it. It's hard to maintain the movement because it doesn't really care about that.
No, there's no sense of logic, maybe, from one movement to the other.
No. But it's really, I mean, because a lot of it is just to do with the language. So I know that a lot of the movement. I saw the red shoes last night in the cinema. And I haven't seen ballet for a long time. And I realized that a lot of the things, because I described the work as we were working on the quantum ballet. So I know that those when it's talking about the feet going out at the back, I know that's trying to be a ballet move.
Yes.
And I recognized it, of course, in the red shoes. So I like that thing of it sort of going, oh well, if they want a ballet, that's what they do in ballet.
But it's almost deconstructed it, because it's giving you're on one leg, your left leg is behind you, you are turning, and so I can imagine it. It's really like the pirouette, the sort of classic pirouette in ballet. I really felt that as well.
I can see that in your body more than mine.
But I mean, there is something about deconstructing the ballet in a way, like, or is it deconstructing, because it's really the AI that's doing it, like as it's passed through it, it's sort of trying to reconstruct reality through its lens somehow.
Yeah, I mean, I did one of the early pieces I did with the AI was for a magazine where I was writing these plays, or the AI, as I was instructing the AI to write these plays between Socrates and Glaucon, and what was happening in Plato's cave. And I wanted it to be quite pornographic, so I sort of set up a few things of what they were, a few starting points of what they were doing in Plato's cave. And it was fascinating for me because the AI, it knew who Plato was, it knew who Socrates was, so all that wasn't a problem. And then it also knew what pornography was, so that you had this sort of complete headfuck of this sort of these two worlds being put together. And very much because so much of it was sticking things in other people's holes. But I mean, totally, the pornography was totally impossible. We tried to sort of
yes,
reenact it, going, but how? How would you? How would this happen? But I like the fact that the AI think, well, yes, that's what they want. They just want,
things in holes,
they
things
want
in
things
caves.
in holes, and yeah, and it doesn't really matter. And I tried to draw some of them out for a while, but it was just too difficult.
Yeah.
But I like that with this piece, that it's sort of go, oh yeah, well, they want a ballet, so that's what they do in ballet.
Yeah.
This, but having said that, there were lots of different versions that weren't like this, so I have chosen one that's more.
And you mentioned that you asked it to do something like a quantum ballet, and did theories of quantum physics appear for you anywhere in the text that it produced, in the dances it produced?
It's hard to tell, really, because that was one of the constant things. I did sort of change other words a little bit, but that was, I quite like the idea of the quantum ballet. Some of them are much more abstract than the one that I sent you, because I was wanting us to do something that was very instruction led. But some of them are in fact, very sort of beautiful, and much more open to interpretation.
Yes, yeah, because I mean, there's something beautiful in. I mean, I don't know much about quantum physics really, but that sense of doing the same thing in different places at the same time, like there's something very romantic about it, and also that this AI is somehow bringing us together, and also that it like, I felt like part of the script was also to do with our relationship, and that we have always been sort of separated, but that we're having these dances in different places, but somehow connected somehow. I know for me at least, I've always felt like you're in the room with me when I'm teaching choreography or I'm dancing choreography, and or trying to understand performance maybe, and what it can be and stuff. So it felt like a real homage to that as well. Like,
well, I was wanting it to be.
No, it's beautiful. But with all your work, there's a sense of a dark romance or a twisted eroticism. Like you say, I think I've read the text by the AI to do with Plato's cave and the sort of pornographic thing, and the impossibility of love or something or passion, or like it makes it even more erotic in a way, that it is impossible.
Yeah, and also what the thing that they and I found all the little plays, the shadow plays, actually really beautiful. Again, there was a sense of of cutting some of them out. But the what emerged was this sort of very strange, rather sad relationship between Socrates and Glaucon. Very often they'd just end up sort of sitting in the cave crying in the dark, or sort of weeping about. So they became these sort of very strange, sort of existential sort of poems in a way.
Yeah.
That had a lot of had a lot of hard sex in as well.
Yes, which is existential in its own way.
Yeah, well, yeah, it certainly was.
um, I mean, I was showing a friend a choreography I had made not long ago, and they said it's almost like you're having an existential crisis. And I think that's something I've definitely borrowed from you. I think from the beginning with Operation Infinity, where we are these autonomons, really, sort of embodied, sort of the Mabuse's troop Mabuse, sort of embodying the will of Dr. Mabuse, and we're sort of shimmering energies of the mistakes that occur between us. And there's something very existential in that play of how do the instructions inform oneself of oneself, and how does one exist as a being in amongst others. You know, what part of me is you, what part of you is me. Like there's something very philosophical in the instruction itself almost.
But the instruction in a way becomes before that, so the whole of Operation Infinity was sort of saying, what happens if we do a project that's not to do with us, but it's to do with this fictional character of Dr. Mabuse. So as much as possible, he was the one that was making the decisions. So everything came through his logic, and we were all literally following his rules in a way, and everything came. So there was always, and also within that there was, and one of the biggest problems with that project was that why would Dr. Mabuse want to put on a little theatre show? And of course, the only logical reason was that he wasn't interested, but he was interested in this thing in theatre that you have, which is, I think, quite rare, that you got a lot of people in a space looking at something. So he was interested in that gaze and in that sort of that form of hypnotism, but only insofar as he could then commit crimes behind behind one's back. So the premise became the premise of putting on a show became an excuse for something else to happen while that was taking place, in a way. And how we all fitted into that was quite hard, and it shifted the whole time as well.
Yes, but there's a similarity between this little practice or this little piece and with the AI, and a sense of a meta structure which determines what we are, how we are behaving. And I was curious how much of sort of a scraping of reality, of a sort of the zeitgeist is important in your work. It always feels your work is both cellular, like atomic, maybe quantum perhaps, and at the same time universal, in the biggest sense, the universe and everything included. Yeah, is there a question in there? Something to do with, is it about meeting with the zeitgeist, maybe?
Well, hopefully. I mean, again, with Operation Infinity, that was quite clear. And one of the reasons I chose the Dr. Mabuse thing, because the first Dr. Mabuse film happened in, I think, 1925. 4-hour silent film, really extraordinary film. But one of the things that Dr. Mabuse talks about in the film is that the way you control people, because he just wanted to destroy civilization, but the way you control people is through fear. And once that fear is there, then people will do anything you want. And I've seen, watching this at the same time as we were invading Iraq, and the relationship between the media telling these sort of like completely fictional stories. And I think it's so fascinating that we got to a stage where our politics was mimicking a fictional character that was talking about inventing fear as a way to control people. And yeah, and so that in a way that was the leading point. That was the things that said, well, yes, this is why we're working on this. It's to look at this relationship between again, and it's got to do with the gaze. It's got to do with the distracted gaze. Something else is happening. But it would be really hard for me to think about doing that project now because then Trump came in. So, you know, and I remember at that time when Trump got in, lots of people who had been involved in Operation Infinity said, oh my God, you know, and now. But then it was worse, you know, so then it suddenly, instantly, the world of Operation Infinity just seemed to sort of disappear in a way. And this other, much more monstrous sort of presence took over. It's related, of course, it's related, but it's without any of the sophistication.
Maybe it's the if I may, like the taking this interest in rules and instructions that is implicit in sort of direction and choreography and dancing, and amplifying it and looking at like where are those tendencies in society and how do they function. And you're right, like there was a huge shift in politics and in the global regime maybe, and now we have this sort of era of new fascism with a sort of techno side to it, with the emergence of these monopoly organizations with their use of AI and their use of regulation to try and corner the market and stuff. And the sense of what is instructing us or what is the regime is shifting. It is sort of scary.
Yeah, well, we probably know nothing yet. And it'll be related to AI. It'll have a relationship to AI.
Yeah, for sure. I wonder, because there's something you spoke also about, you don't give the instructions. I wonder, what is your relationship to creativity? How do you relate to that? Because I've always been curious. Because there is a sense that you're giving over a lot of the decision making to say the AI or to the fiction of Dr. Mabuse, and yet your vision is so strong and so clear. So how do you, if you mind me asking such a question?
It's quite a big question. I think that one of the things that I'm interested in is not knowing what something's going to be. I think again, something like, well, there are two different versions. So something like Operation Infinity, you sort of say, oh yeah, I'm interested in knowing what this character would do if he made a theatre show. And then I remember with that project, you know, I gathered a lot of material, and that we spent a week. I spent a week with, I think, 5-6 performers, just exploring this with absolutely no knowledge of where it would lead in a way. And through that process, realizing what's right and what's not right, and what to put aside and what to develop. And then we've been doing these sort of installation live stream things, and the things and the premise for those is that all the rules come from the space, so they're not to do with outside rules. They're to say, okay, so how wide are the staircases, what does that mean to go up the staircases like that. And it's really exciting. It's finding it really exciting to work on that, to work in that way, sort of saying, well, of course it's coming through us, but it's also sort of saying, well, we're taking all the rules from the physical space, and let's see what happens. Let's see where that leads us. And it's exciting. It's an exciting. So in the end, you know, there's always a sense of, oh, so okay, so this is what it is. This is what it wanted to be. And of course, other people are part of that as well. So it's not. I'm sort of setting a landscape usually, but I'm not. I'm wanting that landscape to be reflected with the people that I'm working.
Yeah, it's really beautiful. And I think once when we were working, I asked, or maybe I called the task improvisation, or you said that this is not improvisation, it's something else. And I think that's so true. And even the way you speak now, like I could easily hook that term of so it's site specific. And I think I'd imagine you would argue, no, it's not site specific, it's something else. It's
site specific is such a weird thing, because I used to do shows in opera houses and they were site specific, because you're using, but it's it's a different thing in those cases. I mean, even when, so then there's that when we did Luxuriant, for me the difference for when we did Luxuriant at the People's Palace, which is this very beautiful Art Deco glossy theatre, proscenium theatre, to going to Poland and doing exactly the same show in an 19th century abattoir, ruined abattoir. The material was the same, but always, there were big shifts in those things that allowed for the work to change in the context of those spaces. So the spaces are, for me, of course, they're always as important as anything else that's sort of going on.
No, it's really beautiful, and such a pleasure. I'm so glad you accepted my invitation to dance with me. It feels like what a gift. And I think for me in my own choreography, I've taken those qualities of inclusivity, and I include the relationships one has with each other and so on. And so the fact that somehow you can be invited into this Peter relationship that choreographs me and my world and the lens through which Peter speaks, which is very Dr. Mabusian in a way, concerned with the ethics of instruction and power and authorship. Yeah, it's beautiful. I know that our conversation will continue.
Oh yes.
Is there anything else you'd like to say, or is there a way in which people can visit your work? You have two amazing websites. You have your own simonvincenzi.com, and you have operationinfinity.org, and I highly recommend people spend at least 3 hours on Operation Infinity, because you do need it.
You do need it, and you've got to click on places you're not meant to click.
That's a good instruction for life, really. It's wonderful. But was there anything, Simon, that you would like to say before we say goodbye?
No, it's always a pleasure.
Thank you, Simon. We'll speak soon.
Yeah. All righty.
I want to go back to thinking of this as a dream, because it is how it has to be right now.